Walker in the middle, 5, 10, 15, 20. There goes Herschel Walker. There goes Herschel Walker all the way. 75 yards. Crowd has gone bananas. And they run a trap with Herschel Walker. Got a hole, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Herschel. There goes Herschel. Suddenly, 76 yards. Herschel Walker scores. Hole at the right tackle. Man, did he turn it on when he had to.
I think probably the one for me personally would be one when I was a player, and it didn't really involve me. It was in 1975 when Richard Appleby ran an end around on 2 or 3 different occasions, and then the last time he stopped, threw the football to Gene Washington, and we completed an 80-yard, I believe it was, touchdown pass to upset Florida at that time, 10-7.
Appleby, the end around, just stopped, planted his feet, and threw it. And Washington caught it, thinking of Montreal in the Olympics, and ran out of his shoes right down the middle, 80 yards. Gator ball rocking, stunned. The girders are bending now. Look at the score. $45, 50, $45, 40, run, Lindsey, 25, 20, 50, 10, 5, Lindsey shot, Lindsey shot. Carswell intercepted on the 33. Carswell saved our Franny, and the Dogs will have the ball on the 40. 4, we're out lined up 3. They have no timeouts, 2. The stadium is worse than bonkers. We hand it off to Herschel. There's a hole. 5, 10, 12. He's running over people. Oh, you Herschel Walker. Clock running. Oh, look at the sugar falling out of the sky. Look at the sugar falling out of the sky. Give it to Hirsch. Needs a block. Hirsch in trouble, going to the sideline. One man missed him.
The chief responsibility of any radio play-by-play man is to describe the action that unfolds on the field. But Georgia fans get an added bonus. Their play-by-play man describes the drama that unfolds as well.
45-40. Hurst has got a man trying to get him to the side. 30, 25, 20, 15, 10. Touchdown!
Larry Munson was not born a Bulldog, but it's hard to tell. In 1966, Munson was hired to be the eyes of Bulldog fans all across the South. But he became much more than that. He became Georgia's biggest fan and biggest worrier.
I think I used to drive Dooley nuts because I worried a lot, and I could talk to Dooley on the night before a game, and he started avoiding me because I would, seriously at the time, I would tell him, God, we ain't big enough. We ain't big enough, and somebody would sprain an ankle. I remember once our Roverback Krug in an Auburn game trying to clinch a championship over at Auburn, and we lose him on the bus going to the field. He goes down on the bus, and we haven't got the Rover. I never forget that. And of course, I found out about that. I was really moaning and groaning about stuff, but that wasn't put on. I was very much concerned because I really wanted to win.
Bobo bobbled the snap, comes back, and he throws a long pass.
Larry Munson has a unique ability to absorb the emotion of the game that's being played before him, and he's able to put that emotion into his call of the game. The gravelly-voiced legend in the Georgia press box never put on a Georgia jersey. He never played a down between the hedges. But when the Dogs go to war on Saturday afternoons, he is battling in the trenches with them. He lives and dies with every down. And in the process, he has endeared himself to Bulldog fans everywhere.
Tally fakes, bootlegs out.
While his unique style was apparent from the beginning, it took 7 years and a big upset in Knoxville for the Munson-Bulldog bond to be cemented.
Yeah, I wasn't totally perhaps wrapped into it, and I think where it opened up, for me at least, was one day in Knoxville when suddenly Tennessee made a mistake and we got the ball and we drive down and we score real late, and I'm living in Nashville at the time and commuting in the late 60s when this happened, and I hollered without thinking at the end of the game, my God, I said, Georgia has just beaten Tennessee in Knoxville, and I blurted that out. And then of course I got in my car and drove home to Nashville. Well, that started pushing things over the edge a little bit.
31-28, Tennessee leading. minute 44, minute 43, minute 42, one flanker, power I. They're on the 12. Everybody chanting defense. Georgia going to line up on the 26. Georgia's got a first down on the Tennessee 26. The stadium rocking. Stadium can't believe it.
Well, those are the times that you come out here and you work on these practice fields for. That's what you live for, is to make the big plays at the big time. Something you can talk about 23, 24 years later. You know, people still talk about it and everybody remembers it a little bit different. It was just a feeling that everybody just said, okay, we've got 60, 65 yards to go. Let's line up, let's do it, and let's get it over with. It was very confident. And we'd had such a good year that, and then coming from behind right there at the end, just, it was a great feeling.
On October 3rd, 1973, 70,000 people crowded into Neyland Stadium to watch Georgia and Tennessee light up the scoreboard. The Dogs got on the board first. Jimmy Poulos goes around the left side for a 9-yard score and a 7-0 lead. But the Vols quarterback, Conridge Holloway, was able to guide his team down the field as well. He scored 1 touchdown and threw for another in the first half. The Dogs' Horace King found pay dirt twice in the half as well. Georgia took a 21-14 lead into the locker room at the half. More fireworks in the second. Eddie Brown fielded a Georgia punt at his own 15-yard line. He ran right and then cut upfield, finding a path to the end zone. The run electrified the home crowd and put Tennessee in the lead 24-21. Haskell Standback appeared to ice the game for the Big Orange with this short run that gave them a commanding 31-21 fourth quarter lead. But the 1973 Georgia team had enough grit and determination to fight back. Andy Johnson connects with Poulos on a short touchdown pass that cut Tennessee's lead to 3. The Bulldog defense would hold, and on 4th and 2, Tennessee tries to fake the punt. Big mistake. Georgia takes over on downs.
Georgia is 8.5 yards away. Minute 17, minute 16, minute 15, second down on the 8.5. Andy going to take it, give it to Harrison. Fake it, Andy Johnson. Touchdown, Andy Johnson. Touchdown, Andy Johnson. What a fake. They hit Harrison dead on the 9, and Andy bootlegged to the left and scored. My God, Georgia beat Tennessee in Knoxville. Georgia's defeated Tennessee 35-31 in Neyland Stadium.
The engineer and I were both fully dressed, and we just took our billfolds out of our pockets and just went on the diving board and just went right in the pool. And we didn't get back to motel till 12:30. We just dove in the pool with all our clothes on after beating Tennessee that night, because we were really a whip ball club.
11:30 to play. Electric scoreboard flashing the words defense. Tennessee trying to hang on to a 6-point lead. Slot with an eye. Tennessee crashing off one side. We pitch it to Herschel. Going to get him out. 10, 8, 7, 5. Herschel Walker.
Well, I had one thing sticking in my mind before he ever played his first play. Dooley had said to me very quietly, what I may have on my hands here is nothing but a big, stiff fullback. And that's the way he put it. And in scrimmages, the guys had taken care of him pretty good. And he was third-string tailback the night we went into Knoxville.
Once we put on pads, he was a different player. And when he got in the game in Tennessee in the opener in 1980, we saw a guy we didn't see during the preseason. I mean, he was running over people. We knew we had a competitor, and we knew he was a talented guy. He had the whole package, and it just excited the whole team, because the year before we knew we were close to winning an SEC championship. We were lacking one player, and that player in our system had to be a dominating player at running back. And we got that player in Herschel Walker, and in that Tennessee game, we knew it was going to be a big year for us.
And the kick is good. Long, going to come down inside the 30, and we hit him. He fumbled the ball, and the dog missed it. It's rolling to 10, to 7, to 5. We fumble it again. We fumble it. It's in the end zone. Get on that ball.
Hopes are always highest at the start of a season. Everyone is undefeated, and each team has championship hopes. But in September of 1980, Georgia fans were concerned with rebounding from the 6-5 season of 1979. It was a sweltering night in Knoxville, Tennessee, when the Dogs opened their season on September 6th of 1980. And things got hotter on the field when the Vols jumped out to a 15-0 lead on their home turf. But then momentum swung toward the Georgia sideline. This fumble would elude everyone's grasp, and the ensuing safety got the Dogs on the board. Trailing 15-2 and desperate to establish a rushing attack, Vince Dooley called on freshman Herschel Walker. He may have been young, but it was obvious he was a man among boys. While Herschel did his thing on the field, Munson was running with him in spirit.
This has not been a night for old lady luck. Georgia knocking on the door. They're on the Tennessee 16. Tennessee has dominated this one. They gave us a break. We couldn't use it. Then we gave them a couple. 15-2, Tennessee leading. Crowd roaring against Georgia, trying to make them drop it so they can't hear. We hand it off to Herschel. There's a hole. 5, 10, 12. He's running over people. Oh, you Herschel Walker. My God almighty, he ran right through 2 men. Herschel ran right over 2 men. They had him dead away inside the 9. Herschel Walker went 16 yards. He drove right over orange shirts, just driving and running with those big 5s. My God, a freshman. 15-8. You think this isn't big right here? Do you realize what has happened in this thing tonight? Tennessee in a 7-4, and Rex sticks it up, and it's in there good. 11:30 to play. Electric scoreboard flashing the words defense. Tennessee trying to hang on to a 6-point lead. Slot with an eye. Tennessee crashing off one side. We pitch it to Herschel. Going to get him out. 10, 8, 7, 5. Herschel Walker. Tennessee guessed the other side. We went to the short side and pitched it to that kid out of Johnson County. He got a block in front of him out around the 6 or 7 and got inside of it and went in the corner standing. Give the guy some rest. It's 15-15. My God, what's going to happen in the next 11 minutes and 16 seconds? Robinson to try the extra point. Tennessee 7 men on the line. 1 man's going to jump in the middle, and Rex sticks it up, and the kick is good for the first time tonight. Georgia 16, Tennessee 15. 4:22 to go. Georgia leading 16-15. Tennessee trying to save himself here. Balls come up to the line. Olszewski behind it. We're in a 6-5. They put a man in motion. They pitch it to the tail. He fumbled. It rolls around. Everybody dives. I think Georgia's got the ball on the 2-yard line. We cracked it out of his hands. Georgia's caught the ball. About the 2, it squirted up in the air, and somebody dove on it in the secondary. They pitched to the tail with a man in motion and ran a sweep with a couple of blockers. He cut inside. He penetrated 4 yards. Eddie Weaver and Joe Crimmins hit him. Georgia's got the ball on a 1.5. Oh, God, look at the clock. 4:02, and it's on a 1.5. Georgia up to the line. Power eye. Tennessee up in there. 7 men on the line. And Buck curls over the ball, and somebody tried to blitz between Morrison and all. And look at the clock. Oh, look at the clock. They have come back, and they beat Tennessee 16-15.
You know, for many years after the incident in Knoxville, the Tennessee coaches would play my broadcast of the Herschel's first touchdown run where he ran over Bates and split a couple tacklers at the same time. They would play that over and over on speakers to their football team to try and get them up and get them ready.
Do you think, as a result of this game, you have gotten a lot of attention? Do you think people might expect too much out of you?
Well, I really can't say, but I hope they don't, because we'll get out there and at least at every game and give it 110%, and I hope they expect what I can give, and that's about all I can give.
In 1980, a freshman sensation by the name of Herschel Walker stormed onto the college football scene, and Larry Munson was there for every toss sweep and every handoff. The red and black freight train led Georgia to the 1980 national championship. Walker's great plays on the field were always complemented by Munson's great calls in the booth. There have been many great combinations in Bulldog history, Ballou to Scott, Zaire to Hunter, but the combination of Munson and Walker may be the best ever.
And off, Herschel Walker, 5, 10, 12, he ran over him. There he goes. Herschel's gone. And they run a trap with Herschel Walker. Got a hole, 5. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Herschel. There goes Herschel. Suddenly, 76 yards. Herschel Walker scores. Hole at the right tackle. Man, did he turn it on when he had to. Suddenly.
With Herschel, as you took your voice and you went step by step with him on the air, or 5 yards by 5 yards with him, you yourself were working yourself into a frenzy because you felt at any moment he was gone and he was going to go 80 or whatever. I think your voice came up and your energy level came up. Anytime he got a little hole and you saw him come through and realize how big and strong he was, he might go. And I would imagine you were putting more of yourself into the game whenever Herschel had the ball.
The whole ball game coming down to this. Rex Robinson out of Marietta, Georgia. 16-14 Kentucky with 8 seconds. The stadium's standing. Well, some of them are upside down, but they're trying to stand. It's going to be held just inside the 19.
You know, a lot of people can never get out of their mind the Rex Robinson kick in '78 that beat Kentucky. And that's because we had to drive so far the last 2.5 minutes and then kick it to win it as the game is ending.
Byron fakes to McClendon, comes back to the left and looks, and he throws it long down there, and Scott got up in the air, touchdown.
The 1978 Georgia Bulldogs were a special team. The so-called experts had picked them anywhere from the middle of the pack on down in the powerful SEC. The players preferred to settle such issues on the field and prove they had enough heart and desire to make up for any shortcomings. In October of 1978 at Lexington, Kentucky, it looked like it wasn't the Dogs' day. The Wildcats had controlled the game and had a 16-0 lead midway through the third quarter. But then the offense struck quickly. Willie McClendon got hot, and Kentucky was in big trouble. Later in the drive, McClendon would score to make it 16-7 Kentucky. After trading punts, Jeff Pyburn went by air for the next score, hitting Ulysses Norris, and the Cats' lead was down to 2, 16-14. Georgia would regain possession with 4 minutes left in the game. They drove to the 12-yard line before calling on Rex Robinson.
2:47, 2:46. The Dogs desperately trying to save themselves up in Lexington. Pyburn going to go to McClendon at left tackle. 5, 10, 12 yards. McClendon up to the 42. The clock just will not stop. Pyburn throwing to Scott, complete over the left side of the 35. The clock's against him. Georgia's come flying back down to the Kentucky 16. One man split wide, 25, 24. Pyburn, McClendon driving in the middle, and they knocked him down in the 12. 11, 10, they're on about the 11, and now 8 seconds. The Dogs call time. Now, guess what's coming up? Just inside the 19. It's set down. He puts it up. It looks good. Watch it. Watch it. Yeah. 3 seconds left. Rex Robinson put him ahead 17-16. The bench is unconscious. He kicked the whatchamacallit out of it. They've come down to the Georgia 38 with 48 seconds to go. It's 20-13. Vanderbilt comes up to the line. The Dogs desperately trying to stay unbeaten, and I mean desperately trying to stay unbeaten. They're on the Georgia 38 with 48 seconds.
I think defensive football players are just a little bit different breed than the offensive football player. You're always reacting, you're always making up, you're always the underdog. I particularly like that situation where you have to make up for lost ground, and people don't really expect you to be able to do it. You're always scrapping and you're always fighting. And it's not so much a talented position as it is just a guts and hard work and determination position. And I think that is more conducive to feeling at the end of the game that you really earned the respect of the other people, and I enjoy that.
Hogue. Could talk all day about Hogue. I didn't know until about the end of his senior year all these little special drills he had to get quickness into his feet more, to help his jumping ability. He worked at that. Little things like you'd like to teach your kid to do, but you know, kids aren't going to take time to do that. But Hogue did that. Hogue was just remarkable and proved it in the NFL because he was not fast enough, but he still played well. Hogue was just absolutely outstanding. I don't say he's the best defensive back we ever had, but he always showed up in the right place, if you remember. And as a freshman, we lined him up to block punts when we first saw him, so there was some kind of a quickness there. And he was a genius up here.
Our Georgia team passed a true stress test in Nashville against a fired-up Vandy team. The test went all the way down to the last play before the final outcome was Georgia 20, Vanderbilt 13. The play of the defense was superb against one of the most prolific passing teams in America. We only gave up 13 points, and it was more outstanding when you consider that 10 of those 13 points came as a direct result of our offensive mistakes. There were some outstanding individual play, like Andre Holmes, who intercepted 2 passes. But perhaps Terry Hogue was the difference in the football game.
Georgia was 4-0-1 when it paid a visit to Nashville in 1983. The Commodores had been a pesky opponent for the Dogs through the years, and this was no exception. The Dogs got 2 first-half touchdowns from tailback Keith Montgomery. This 30-yard scamper gave Georgia a 14-10 lead. Vandy was putting the ball in the air most of the evening, but Terry Hogue was there to make life miserable for the Doors. Just before the half, he stops a Vandy drive with this diving interception, but it was just part of an evening of great plays. Normally a roverback, Hogue was playing out of position at safety. He was also playing with some pain and a noticeable limp. All that went away when the ball was snapped, however. In the second half, Vanderbilt connected on 1 field goal, while Kevin Butler hit 2 for the Dogs. Georgia led 20-13. Vandy had a chance, but they just couldn't find a way to get around Hogue. He deflects one ball here. But Hogue would save one of the biggest plays of his college career for the closing seconds of the game.
They've come down to the Georgia 38 with 48 seconds to go. It's 20-13. Vanderbilt comes up to the line. The Dogs desperately trying to stay unbeaten, and I mean desperately trying to stay unbeaten. They're on the Georgia 38 with 48 seconds. Page, kind of a long count this time. He's back now to throw, dumps it to a running back on the 31. They hit him right away, but it was complete. They got 7 yards, and the clock is running 37, 36, 35 seconds. Page dropping back with 16 seconds, less than that. He's going to run to the right. He's throwing a long bomb in a corner, and there he is. And somebody broke it up with a great leap. Terry Hogue got up in the air. Hogue got up with one hand and broke up a cinched touchdown down there.
I told Terry Hogue, as well as the football team after the game, that not only is he the finest defensive player that I've ever had the privilege of being associated with, but in my opinion, the finest defensive player that I've ever seen.
Terry Hogue